What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Third Coast Sports TV. I'm your host, Wink. And I wanted to do a quick little breakdown about yesterday's game against the Indianapolis Colts. And I wanted to talk about some things going into our next game against the Cowboys. And shout out to, before I get into any point, shout out to Sauce Nation. Shout out to everybody who supports Sauce Nation. And if you're a Houston Texans fan, be sure to subscribe, like, hate, and just give any of your thoughts in the comment section below. Um, it's a few points that I wanted to talk about when it came to this team. One thing I wanted to talk about was the aggressiveness and how conservative Bill O'Brien gets in terms of his play calling and halves of games. He was very aggressive coming out of the gate in the first half, and Deshaun Watson and Will Fuller and everybody were clicking on all cylinders. You got Kiki involved in the game, and he was able to rack up, like 10 catches for well over 100 yards in his season debut, and it was good to see him bounce back after being injured for like the last 7 weeks. Um, it was good to see J.J. Watt and Jadavian Clowney as a killer combo, and in between the both of them, they got 4 sacks, and it was good to see the continuous relationship that Will Fuller and Deshaun Watson has. It's something about the relationship that those guys have. It's just that they click, man. They instantly click, and I wish that a guy like Lamar Miller could have been involved in the game a little bit more along with the tight ends. But I'm not really going to go too far into that because the tight ends haven't really been used this year, like they have in years past. And I think a major reason for that is the game plan, and it's going to be a week by week game plan because Bill O'Brien has, better receiving options at the receiver position. So another point that in terms of these situations with Bill O'Brien, one major problem that I have with him when he's calling a phenomenal game and when he's making the right play calls, this team is unstoppable when they're clicking on all cylinders. And it's like the moment that this team gains a lead, it's like we start to get comfortable. And he wasn't the only one who was comfortable in this game. Romeo Crennel has been lackluster this year, and a lot of us at Sauce Nation, among many other sports fans, along with the players, were very happy that Romeo Crennel was going to be back to coach this football team with the guys that we had that went down last year. I think coupled with everything that Deshaun Watson and Bill O'Brien proved last year, people wanted to see that, and we saw glimpses of that, in a half of a game, and we saw it in some portions of the second half, but nowhere near to the extent that we had in the first half of the game. I think the impact of that gave the Indianapolis Colts and their coaching staff to be far more aggressive. They played more aggressive on defense, and they got very assertive at the point of attack when it came to Andrew Luck getting the ball to like 9 different receivers. Originally, I had us losing this game for a couple of reasons. For one, Bill O'Brien has not coached well throughout this entire season, and prior to this game, he had an interview where he said he didn't even know what he could do with this team anymore. So to me, I just feel like he was defeated. We don't really win in Indianapolis like this, and the way that the game was about to end, it just felt like, how do you drop a 18-point lead against the Indianapolis Colts? And I mean, Andrew Luck was pretty much called noodle arm, and he showed and he put up like career highs on us the other day, and it was unfortunate because the Texans secondary was getting tossed up. But the main reason for that was because Romeo Crennel was playing soft coverages all over the field. He wanted to play cover four. He wanted to play, cover two zone, and it's just like those things were just not working across the field. The middle of the field was getting abused left and right. Before the game, I said a guy like Naeem Hines was going to end up making an impact in this football game, and lo and behold, he ended up getting like 2 touchdowns with like 60 some yards for reception yards, and it just seemed like Dylan Cole being down this week really hurt our defense in the middle because when you have options like Bernard McKinney in coverage, it's just not going to be a good sign. I'm glad we came out of this with a win, but it's a lot of positives we can take from this game of what we can build. And one of the main positives that I can say that we can have going into this next week's game plan is ensuring that the offense plays exactly like they did in the first half of this game. If you played it, if you play the way that we played, and if you coach the way that we coach, and you keep your foot on the opponent's neck, I see no team really beating this team once they're clicking. The defense is gonna have to shell up, and they're gonna have to do a lot of things. Coaching has been very good in the past on all levels. Once that Romeo Cornell got his team to peak, but I can't bank on that at this moment, and who knows when this team is going to start peaking. Hopefully, it started in this game, and they can build from it and just work on the communication issues that they were having all over the field in the back end because Honey Badger was trying to do entirely too much, getting corners and linebackers lined up in their specific spots, and it was causing breakdowns in the secondary, and guys didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know where they were covering. And the touchdown at night, the first touchdown that Naeem Hines, you know, um, put up on Honey Badger in the right side of the red zone. It was kind of crazy. When I go back and I go look at that play, it was a great route. It was a good it was a good contested catch, but um, he kind of shoved off on that before he went up and caught that pass. Sure enough, I mean, it didn't get called back or anything like that. It was no offensive off on pass interference or anything like that. So it was just something that we had to take on the chin, regroup, and make sure that we get the offense back in the position to score. Um, Trevor Daniel helped out a whole lot. I'm so glad that we took him over Shane Leckler this year because I know Shane Leckler came out and the fact that he had competition, he got comfortable. He didn't think that, you know, um, someone could ever come in as a rookie and take his spot. Well, he was wrong. And Trevor Daniel than is doing far more than he's doing at this point in his career. Hopefully next week he's going to end up punting the exact same way because field position for us is going to end up being paramount when we play the Cowboys because we cannot be in a situation where Ezekiel Elliott is running up and down the field, and having great field position. We just can't be in that situation. But I'll end up discussing those points later in another video. Um, Andrew Luck was able to hit no-name receivers, and thank God that T.Y. Hilton went out when he did the second time, because I honestly feel like if they would have got off of 4 catches, he ended up having like 110 yards. J. Joe had no answers for him, and he just started to look old. Like I've been very protective of J. Joe, but I don't think I can no longer do it because his deficiencies really just showed yesterday in the game where he was playing, and I didn't like what I saw. He was late. I think he gave up like 180 yards or something like that. I saw a stat line or something like that with the amount of catches and things like that he ended up giving up, and it was just not a good sight for J. Joe. Um, the linebackers played as well as they could have played, which in the positions that they were in. The safeties played pretty decent. Justin Reed had a solid game. Outside of that catch that Honey Badger gave up, I think he whiffed on a tackle or something like on a big play earlier in the game, but he kind of redeemed himself, and he made sure that he did everything he could do, to make sure that guys, didn't capitalize on him personally. The middle of the field, they really need to fix that. Romeo Cornell needs to run more five blitzes. He needs to send pressure the way that he did because it's no long. You really don't have the secondary to compensate for this pass rush that we have. And the way that they played, you have to take advantage of every mismatch that you possibly can and get your quarterback and the opposing team running back out of position to not make plays. Um, Another point that I wanted to get into was Deshaun Watson, man. He's just getting better. He's getting better on a weekly basis. He's had his third consecutive game with well over 300 yards. The man threw 2 touchdowns. Um, One thing I have with him, that I want him to get better at is definitely throwing that ball away. I want him to get thrown. I want him to throw that ball away, and I want him to start hanging on the passes that he can just live for another down. Just throw it away, regroup, see what you can on pre-snap. If you see something, make the adjustment and capitalize. It's no reason for you to be putting yourself at stake. We're already breathing and gasping every time you get hit, and the offensive line on the left and right side, as far as the tackles go, it's just not good right now. Martinez Rankin was getting beat like a drum yesterday. There was no reason for this grown man to be in this football game, and dudes were crossing his face. He was missing dudes like completely. It's like he had no sense of direction. He had no urgency. And even on the play where Deshaun Watson scored on a design run in the red zone, Lamar Miller gave up he had a phenomenal block. And Martinez Rankin was there. He didn't touch anybody. And it was disturbing to me. It was something that you just noticed. And it's just like, I wonder, like, how much does he want to play football? Kendall Lamb stepped in at the right tackle position because they wanted to bench Julian Davenport when he's playing out of position and he needs to be the left tackle. I do not trust Martinez Rankin as a left tackle, and if you keep him at left tackle, then Deshaun Watson is going to be a dead man. The run game wasn't really popping like that. I mean, Deshaun Watson broke out some big runs. When they were running to the left side of the formation, they had a lot of success, but they didn't utilize the run game enough in the second half to really keep the Colts off of the field, because it just seemed like the Colts, once they started clicking, they were just driving and driving and driving on us. And you could see, I think a major thing that we really saw from the defense in the second half, to go along with the bad play calling from Romeo Cornell, was that they were gassed. Because when overtime hit and when we were doing the flip toss, the coin toss, excuse me, and you just saw J.J. Watt just huffing and puffing, and it was just unfortunate to see him in such a situation where he was so tired. Luckily, the drive that they ended up having was a quick one. When once overtime started and they got off to the field, fairly quickly. But and then Deshaun Watson went down, scored that, and that drive took a lot of time off of the clock. The Colts ended up getting the ball back, and Frank Reich ended up making them what most people will say is a mistake. But honestly, I agree with Ryan Clark and a few other people. And honestly, I thought that Andrew Luck was going to convert, because Andrew Luck, when they were in situations for 3 and 5 plus, I want to say they were like 8 out of 10. So they were like 80% in conversion rate at that point in time. Shout out to Ray Ray, because he was doing some analytics during the game, and all he did mainly was watch the O line and the tackles and how they performed in the running passing game. So make sure that y'all go check out Ray Ray's channel if you want to hear other analytics and you want to hear from somebody else on Sauce Nation. And it's kind of, it's real bad that the tight ends really can't help in the passing and running games and be as effective, in the passing game itself. Jordan Thomas and Akins, they caught a couple of passes, and I honestly believe Ryan Griffin could have made a much bigger impact in this game, but it wasn't the impact that we could have hoped for. Hopefully, down in the line, they really get these tight ends in the game, because if guys start keying in on guys like DeAndre Hopkins, or if they start taking away the running game and stuff like that, you have to be able to rely on these guys to make plays down the field. Let these guys stretch out, run more bootlegs, run all of these concepts, and build off of what you've already have to make this team phenomenal. One thing I definitely, one of the last things I want to say is, Indianapolis was a scary defense coming into this game, and they ended up getting 7 sacks against Deshaun Watson. And Mike Devlin, I just feel, has not done a great job since he's been here as the Houston Texans offensive line coach, and we need to find a solid replacement. I'm not a big proponent of Bill O'Brien, but Bill O'Brien probably earned himself a few games to prove that he can coach like this consistently and build off of his chemistry and stop trying to go back to things that don't work. He was still trying to run tunnel screens with Hopkins. He was still calling dumbass plays, at various points in the games. And some of his decisions were questionable, but for the most part, he coached a good game, and I'm willing to give him credit for that. But make no mistake about it. We didn't win this game. The Colts lost the game. The Colts handed us the game because Frank Reich wanted to be aggressive and he wanted to show his team that that he believes in them, and we're gonna go get this damn thing. That's something Bill O'Brien has never done since he's been here. He doesn't believe in his team like that to make plays. He lives for another down, punts the ball away, and we end up in situations where we're losing games to phenomenal quarterbacks like Tom Brady and Russell Wilson in the clutch. And you put your defense in horrible positions when you know they're getting ate up, the whole game. So I'm glad that Frank Reich had the balls to do exactly what he did. Okay, yeah, I know he was just coaching with Doug Peterson, and he just just came off of winning the Super Bowl, with the Philadelphia Eagles. But I don't fault that man for trying, and I know a lot of Texans fans are glad that he did that because something actually went in our favor yesterday. I know we're all happy to a fault, and a dub is a dub. We'll take it, but we all know we didn't win that game. They did everything. They gifted us, and we have to keep an eye out on these things. But going forward, I just want to see this team be consistent. I just want to see both Bill O'Brien and Romeo Crennel be more aggressive and make sure that you get guys like Kiki, Ryan Griffin, the tight end of Lamar Miller. Get these guys involved. Make sure that you get Duke Ejiofor, man. Every time this man shows up on the field, 53 is out here making plays, man. You cannot be in a situation where you have all this pass rush and you're not using it to your fullest capabilities. But that's my little take on this game. I feel like Andrew Luck will be able to definitely build off of this game, and the level of confidence knowing that their coach believes in them, regardless if some of them doesn't agree with the call. A lot of people in Andrew Luck, that may just been the shit to really wake them up. And the fact that he just put up 460-some yards against a division rival is more than enough to push them into the right direction. But my name is Wink. Welcome to Third Coast Sports TV. I appreciate you guys coming through on another Houston Texans video. I'll be doing a video breakdown on where I feel the Texans are going to end up matching up with the Dallas Cowboys this weekend for prime time. So make sure you guys check out Soft Sports, and make sure you hit up Ed Honcho, Joseph Tenney, Braylon, Breaking News Braylon, Wise Citizen Sports, Ray, as I mentioned, Scrooston Takeover Sports, definitely shout out to Mr. Mediocre, Visionary, spits the definition. That's my big dog, man. Shout out to everybody who is a Houston sports fan and wants, Houston sports man to thrive, man, because the national media isn't helping. So we're doing everything that we can to make sure that we put Houston on the map where it should be. But as I said, welcome to Third Coast Sports TV. I'm your host, Wink. I'm signing off, and y'all have a good day.